A very good afternoon and a warm welcome to one and all present over here and to all the delegates hearing us through our YouTube live channel. I am Dr. Neha Mandade from IAP Digital Media team. I will be hosting this webinar for today on the topic Exercise Program Designed for Healthy Aging with our resource person, Dr. Muthukumaran sir. I would also like to welcome our Tamil Nadu IAPWC team. Now, with that, we have with us today and the entire team Dr. S. Parvati ma'am, the state head, Dr. K. Pradeepa ma'am, the joint coordinator, Dr. Jayashree, sub coordinator, Dr. Chandralekha, sub coordinator, and Dr. Bharti as sub coordinator. And we also have with us today Dr. Srimati ma'am, who would be the moderator for today's session. Now, regarding IAP, digital media team and IAP, I would like to extend a few things so that our delegates would know about it. The Indian Association of Physiotherapists is the oldest and largest association representing physiotherapists in India since 1955. The IAP digital media team consists of a group of physiotherapists who handles the Zoom platform, webinar live streaming, and IAP profiles on social media platforms that is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You may follow the IAP profiles on these social media to receive the notifications for our events such as webinars, workshops, CMEs, conferences, health camps, blood donation drive, and to know about the recent updates on physiotherapy. You may also subscribe to our IAP YouTube channel for notifications of our live webinars. In the playlist section of this channel, webinars are segregated into various folders on the topics like orthopedics, neurology, sports and fitness, pediatrics, cardiopulmonary, women's health, research, cancer rehab, etc. for your all easy access. The social media links would be shared in the chat box shortly. I welcome all of you for the today's webinar. Today is day 3, that is on occasion of World Physiotherapy Day. Team IAPWC Tamil Nadu is organizing this webinar series, and for today's we have the topic of presentation is exercise program designed for healthy aging by Professor Dr. Muthukumaran sir. Now I would like to hand over the further session, move on to the moderator Dr. Srimati ma'am. Over to you for the further session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Neha ma'am. Good day to everyone and a very warm welcome to our Day 3 of World Physiotherapy Day 2025 celebration webinar series. On behalf of the Indian Association of Physiotherapists Women's Cell Tamil Nadu, I, Dr. Srimati, absolutely honored to be the moderator of today's webinar. With an enriched vision to empower women in physiotherapy, promote healthcare awareness, and advance physiotherapy practices globally, we are delighted to welcome participants from different parts of the country and beyond. We truly value your presence and encourage your active participation to make this session more engaging and valuable for everyone. You may share your questions and thoughts in the chat box, and it will be addressed during Q&A segment. And for today, we are deeply privileged to have Professor Dr. J. Muthukumaran sir, IQAC Coordinator, Associate Dean International Affairs, Savita College of Physiotherapy, as our esteemed resource person. He has graduated in sports physiotherapy and holds a PhD in physiotherapy from Savita University. He is a certified exercise physiologist from American College of Sports Medicine, certified level 1 holistic life coach from Czech University Institute, USA, certified level 2 anthropometrist by International Society for the Advancement for Kinanthropometry, ISAK certified manual therapist, certified barefoot rehab specialist from Evidence-Based Fitness Academy, USA, also a licensed dry needling practitioner. He has done around 30 publications. Yes, also received significant contribution award from IAP Shimla and KG Nexus Coimbatore. Also honored with Excellence in Research Award by Novel Research Academy. We once again welcome Professor Dr. J. Muthukumaran sir to share valuable insights on today's topic, exercise program design for healthy aging. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Srinidhi, ma'am, for your great introduction. I hope I'm audible to the participants, if I'm right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
You
thank
are.
you, ma'am. So before I start, I should thank the IAP Women's Cell for having me as a resource person for the webinar series. And I extend my heartfelt thanks to the media team for organizing such a wonderful event and then supporting it. And also the members, like core members of IAP Women's Cell in Tamil Nadu. I can see the names here, Dr. Kavita, Dr. Lakshmi Prasanna, Dr. Srimati, and Dr. Vijaya Bharati, ma'am. And so again, it gives me immense pleasure to give you the lecture or maybe the talk on the exercise program design on healthy aging. So shall I share my screen now so that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hope everybody can see the screen now. Yeah.
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Yeah. Thank you. So today's session is going to be on how to prescribe the exercise. And you know, there is a saying, exercise is a drug of choice, which means exercise should be treated like a drug. So just how the physicians are prescribing a drug with the dosage or the parameters, the same way the exercise should be handled very precautiously as it should serve the goal of the individual. It should not be like the physio or we have know the set of exercise or maybe like we just what are the exercise, the physio no, the trainer no should be given to the individual. So exercise has to be precisely prescribed to the individual, which means it has to be tailored to the individual needs. Either it can be rehabilitation or prehab or post-rehab, even for handling old age people or younger adult or whatever the irrespective of the population we are handling, we have to be sure that what are the parameters we use on the individual should be having a scientific background. And this session is going to solve the purpose, or maybe this solve the purpose in such a way, like maybe end of the session, you'll be getting an idea how to manipulate the exercise parameters. And that's what is going to be about today. So as I have told you, exercise is a drug of choice, which means again, I'm emphasizing exercise should be treated like a drug. Okay. So here are the common terminologies we use, irrespective of the exercise. What other maybe the exercise, maybe a strength training or aerobic or anaerobic or flexibility, or irrespective of exercise domains we use. These are the parameters we commonly use, like frequency, time, volume, rest interval, and intensity. These are the common predominant terms we use. And today's session, again, we are going to see how to manipulate these parameters to the individual needs. Okay. So on this session, I'm just program design because we cannot extensively talk on the whole, overall, maybe like both aerobic and then anaerobic and then flexibility. Considering the time constraint and maybe the attention span of the individual, I'm just focusing only on the strength training parameters. Still, you can extend these or maybe manipulate these parameters parallelly with your other exercise parameters as well. So when we talk about the strength training, and of course, we predominantly train the skeletal muscles, obviously. And we have to know what are the muscle fiber types exist in our body. We have type 1, type 2A, and then type 2B, which is a very common information we have seen here. And we all know type 1 is a slow twitch, type 2A. A is a fast twitch oxidative, and type 2B is the fast twitch glycolytic. So probably we can map it like slow twitches, maybe the aerobic fibers. And type 2 fibers are broadly categorized as aerobic or like fast twitch fibers, in which you can technically say that type 2B fiber is a pure strength fiber, whereas type 2A is a strength endurance fiber. Type 1 is a hardcore endurance fiber. So whatever the activity you do, which predominantly falls into this level of activities. You don't need to think on the athletic level or maybe like a highly active individual. You can take up a younger individual, people who are having a regular physical activity or maybe amateur sporting activity or maybe a professional athlete. Whoever it may be, irrespective of the gender, irrespective of the age, irrespective of the level of activity. So we all have the mixture of all these muscle fiber types in your body. Okay. So when it comes to the strength training, the primary factor what we'll be manipulating is the intensity. So intensity is, I think Dr. Kavita has raised the hand. Anything you want to say, ma'am, Dr. Kavita? Should I continue?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you want to train the type 1 fiber, so it's not like you will be having born with type 1 fiber, or some people are born with type 2 or type 2B. All the individual, there is a genetic advantage, or there is a genetic influence on the proportion of these fibers, but we don't need to consider that. So whatever the training you do, it's going to change these muscle fibers. For example, people who are genetically have the advantage of having a more of type 2 fibers. Because of their training, they can change the type of muscle fiber from type 2A to 1, and then 1 to A, and then B, vice versa. Okay. And another one we have to remember is the 1 RM. You know what is my 1 RM? It's the 1 repetition maximum. And that is the parameter we used to use to prescribe the intensity. So how much weight the individual has to be pushing or pulling. And if you consider the strength training, whatever the exercise people are doing, either they will be pushing or pulling their weight, irrespective of their implements they use. Imagine they might be using a dumbbell, or maybe a machine, or maybe a free weight. Whatever the weight they use, they'll be either pushing or pulling. Even in case of a body weight exercise, imagine if you're doing a pull-ups or a push-ups, or maybe a squats or lunges, what are the exercise? So whether you use a body weight, or a dumbbell, or a cable cross machine, or a functional trainer, or even a TheraBand or TheraTube, whatever the implement we use, you can categorize into 2 categories. People will be pushing or pulling. So in that case, you have to consider the intensity. Intensity is something like how difficult, how hard they are finding it to push or pull, and that becomes the intensity of the given exercise. So if you want to train the type 1 fiber, you have to take up the lesser intensity. We all know, of course, if you want to train the endurance fibers, or you have to increase the endurance of individual, lesser intensity and then higher repetition. If you want to increase the strength, higher intensity, lesser repetition. But the thing is, how much is less or how much is high? And that is what is going to play the big role here. So if you say like 40% of 1 RM, and if you're taking less than 40% of the 1 RM, it becomes endurance training. And if you take a weight anything more than 70 or 80% of their 1 RM, becomes the high intensity training. Anyway, between like 40 to 70 becomes the strength endurance. Okay, so that's how you are going to manipulate or fix the intensity. How much weight? It can be in kgs or pounds, but traditionally in India we use the kgs as a training parameter for the intensity. And here is the gold standard method to find out someone's 1 RM. And if you search in the net, we have a lot of formulas, we have a lot of methods to calculate the 1 RM, but there are errors. You know, there is a problem in the specificity and then reliability of those parameters for readily available formulas. But the gold standard one is the 2.5% rule. So which means, imagine a person is to be ruled out for 1 RM for the lower body, and you pick the exercise like a squats. So you just ask the individual what is their assumed 1 RM. Okay. So which means you cannot do the 1 RM testing on the people who are novice to the exercise, which means you cannot do the 1 RM testing on the beginners. So 1 RM testing is allowed on the people who have been doing exercise. Okay. And if you don't know, or if they are starting with the exercise, you can just with their trial and error method, you can take up a lesser intensity. You can manipulate the repetitions. So anyway, I'm going to talk about that in the next slide as well. So if you are having an individual who have been doing exercise, and if you want to fix the intensity by calculating the 1 RM, implementing this 2.5% rule will be beneficial. Imagine someone's assumed 1 RM is 100 kg for their squat. And for their first trial of exercise, you should take 50% of their assumed 1 RM. And let them do the repetition like squats or what are the given exercise. Usually for lower body, we pick up the squats or maybe the lunges. For upper body, we take bench press or the lat pull down. Here in the example, I'm just talking about the squats, where we are calculating 1 RM for the lower body. So if someone is doing 4 repetition of the squat, okay. So what are the repetitions? Some people might be doing 10 or 8 or 12, whatever. In this example, I'm just giving you 4 reps. So with the 50% of the assumed 1 RM, someone is able to do only 4 reps. Then you just multiply it by 2.5. So result will be 10. So what you have to do, you have to add the 10% of their projected 1 RM for the next trial. So if you do consecutively in such a way, usually by the 3rd or 4th trial, you will be end up in finding the 1 RM of the individual for sure. For some reason, if you are not able to find out the 1RM within 3 to 4 trials of 2.5% rule testing, you have to drop the test and you have to redo the test at least after 24 to 48 hours of recovery time. You don't need to continue the test if you are not able to find the 1RM within 3 to 4 trials. But when you are applying this 2.5% rule, for sure by third or fourth trial, you will be ending up in finding their 1 repetition maximum. And also have in your mind, 1RM testing should be followed with the proper warm-up, proper cooling down, and proper technique, whatever the exercise they have been doing. Of course, it is not indicated for the beginner or for the novice who are new to the exercise. Okay. And here is the fiber composition. So as I told you, our skeletal muscle fibers have type 1, type 2A, and then type 2B. So these are the common types of muscle fibers we have. But we don't know what is the proportion of their muscle fibers in someone's skeletal muscle. Maybe their lower body, maybe the calf or hamstring or quadriceps or things like that. So what we can do, you can take up the 75% of their 1RM. Imagine you have calculated the 1RM for individual. Again, for easier calculation, let's assume someone's 1RM is 100 kg. So what you have to do, you just take 75% of their calculated 1RM, give that as the intensity, which means 70 kg for their bench press or squats or lat pull down. These are the common exercises variation we use to calculate the 1RM for the individual. And if someone is able to do only 12 reps, with the 75% of their calculated 1RM, approximately the working muscle has 50% of fibers is type 1 fiber. If someone is able to do 6 or 5 reps, only 10% of their working muscle is having type 1 fiber. And someone is able to do 20% of their 1RM, 20 repetition with the 75% of the 1RM, almost 80 or 90% of their working muscle is having type 1 fiber. So accordingly, what is the use of finding the percentage of type 1 fiber? If you find someone is 70% is type 1 fiber, which means, of course, only 30% is type 2 fiber. But if someone's aim is to increase the type 2 fiber, then accordingly, you have to manipulate the exercise parameters. So these testings are useful to rule out their 1RM, and after calculating the 1RM, you can make use of this table so that you can calculate the percentage of type 1 fiber approximately available in their working muscle or a given exercise variation. So which means if you're doing squats, what are the predominant muscles we are working? Obviously the hamstring, quadriceps, glutes, and then the calf. For maybe bench press, predominantly you'll have the more focus on your anterior deltoid, your pectoralis major, minor, and maybe triceps. Whereas in case of lat pull down, of course, your medial scapular muscles, especially your latissimus dorsi, and also your biceps. So these are the muscles you're working. You should have your knowledge of what are the muscles is working on a given variation of exercise, right? And here is the training age. So as I have told you, 1RM testing is not advisable for beginner or a novice. Okay. So in that case, you have to consider the training age. There is something called training age. So it has nothing to do with your chronological age. Okay. So whereas doing exercise. So 1 year of doing exercise in the sense, for 1 year at least they must be doing a prescribed and then a consistent giving exercise at least for a year. If someone is having on and off, they are. And if someone is have been doing exercise for about 1 to 2 years, they can be categorized as intermediate. And you have someone who is doing more than 2 years of exercise, you can categorize them as advanced. And when it will be useful, when you prescribe the advanced level of exercises, or like manipulating the exercise parameters, or giving them power exercises like clean and jerk, or maybe your power clean, and then even your deadlift exercises, which means these are exercises should be reserved only for the advanced level of people who have been doing exercise for at least 1 or 2 years. Definitely not for the people who have been doing less than 1 year of exercise. The reason is, of course, it end up in the injuries, soreness, and poor adaptation. And that is the primary reason. And this is about the intensity, how to manipulate the intensity, how to fix the intensity, and then how to, or what is the level of people can receive the intensity of given exercise. And other parameter, what you have to consider is the reps, maybe the repetition. And this we commonly use. Even in static quadriceps, we prescribe it like 10 to 12 reps, or like 8 to 10 reps, or 12 to 13 reps. And that is a common range we used to give. But when it comes to the regular strength training, the repetition parameter is a critical one. So you have to strictly follow the repetition continuum or the range. If someone's goal is to increase only the strength, hardcore strength means the repetition has to be lesser. Lesser means how much lesser? It has to be lesser than 6 to 8, not more than 8. Okay, so less than 8, 1 to 8 repetition is the maximal strength zone. So which means what is the muscle fiber we will be training? Type 2B fiber. And if you take like between 8 to 12 range, it is the traditional one. Like traditionally, whenever the people are doing, usually other than people who are working on hardcore strength, they will end up in the lesser repetition with the higher intensity, obviously. For regular strength training, usually pick between the 8 to 12 reps or even 15 reps. And this is the strength endurance. This is not a hardcore endurance training. This is a strength endurance. And predominantly, we are training fibers like type 1A fiber. And if someone wanted to increase the endurance alone, I mean the muscular endurance, don't confuse this with your aerobic endurance. Aerobic endurance is a separate entity. We are not going to discuss about that here. So if someone wanted to train the endurance of muscular endurance, you have to pick the repetition at least more than 12 or 15. To the max, you can go for 30 repetition. And researchers says that there is no point in doing more than 30 reps, but usually like maximum of 12 to 20 or like 18 and 20 will be the ideal one to increase the muscle endurance. So another thing, these are the other parameters you have to consider is there are other things which you have seen the boxes on the outside of the circle, where you can see like you should never induce a motor fatigue for a beginner, obviously. Motor fatigue in the sense you don't need to go for the all failure level of repetition, which means the people should fail to do the repetition like more than 12 or 15 like such a way. You don't need to fix in such a way, because inducing a motor fatigue is definitely not for the beginner, and obviously end up in the poor adaptations and maybe the poor recovery. And also never use the high intensity to teach a new motor skill. For example, if you are introducing someone to the exercise, or else people have been doing exercise, if you are introducing a new variation of exercise, and you should treat that as a new motor skill. You don't need to fix the high intensity when you're introducing a new variation of exercise or people who are new to the exercise. Okay. And of course, you have to monitor for the mental fatigue. What is mental fatigue? For some reason, if someone is not feel like doing exercise or they feel like stop doing exercise, you should respect that and it should be allowed, because you cannot push it too hard if someone is not feel like doing exercise on a particular day or maybe a particular session. Okay. And repetition, the skill training, and this is what I have been repeating. Okay. So always look for the monitor for the mental fatigue. Never ever induce the motor fatigue. Don't allow the high intensity or like higher repetition when you are introducing a new exercise or a new motor skill for any given exercise. And next parameter is the set. You know what is meant by set, obviously. A group of repetition is set. And we don't have the range of set as we have for the reps for the strength training. Whereas if you look at the repetition, we have like 1 to 6 to 8, obviously, like less than 6 or 8 will be the hardcore strength training, 8 to 12 or 15 will be the strength endurance, more than 12 or 15 will be the pure endurance training. So we don't have the range for the set as we have like it for repetition. You should be clear on that. There is no continuum or the range for the range prescription for the set as such. Depends upon the goal, maybe like strength or strength endurance or endurance alone. But we have the range. Usually people will do these sets between like as low as 1 to the max of 6. But traditionally we people manipulate the set between 2 to 4 sets. And here is the thumb rule. We have thumb rule for that again. And for the first few weeks of training, again, if you're starting a new exercise program, if you're introducing exercise to a individual who is new to the exercise, you should pick or like you should limit only with the 1 or 2 sets of the given exercise. And then progressively you can take it to the 3 to 4 sets. Again, it takes at least 6 to 8 weeks of time to increase the set from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And for the smaller muscles, and even you have the gym equipments, we have which is focusing on the hip adductor, neck muscles, and even forearm muscles. But the thing is, you don't need to focus on these smaller muscles like hip adductors or maybe like neck musculatures, even the forearm muscles, unless until it is warranted, unless actually needed. Because these muscles are obviously is going to work whenever you do the other major muscles. So you don't need to hyper focus on the smaller muscles. In turn, this will end up in the injury too much, because whenever you do the upper body exercise, obviously you'll be holding a barbell or a bench, weights or a dumbbell or whatever, and this is going to in turn train your forearm muscles. You don't need to work isolated manner to train musculatures alone, and that also you have to fix the exercise in such a way so that you won't end up in the strains or a sprain like tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, things like that. Same thing applies to the hip adductor and also the neck musculatures. Okay, and the ideal range of the sets for the whole session in the sense a given exercise, people people will be doing maybe 3 to 4 sets for chest musculature, so 3 to 4 sets for the lower body, upper body, shoulder region, chest region, or back region. So there is a split routine of these, combining these regions when you are giving the exercise. In that case, make sure the overall, all the set of a given exercise should not go more than 30 to 36 sets altogether. Not for the given muscle, the overall exercise session should not go more than 30 to 36 sets. And for better results, it should be stick between 20 to 25 sets. Again, the reason is the stimulation or like activation of these muscle fibers is optimal. When it goes more than beyond the level of 30 to 36 sets of given exercise, and of course, obviously, it's going to end up in the overtraining. You are not going to get the adaptation, or sooner or later, the individual is going to end up in the injuries or soreness. Okay. And here is the loading techniques. And so far, I just talked about the intensity, how to fix the intensity, and then calculating the 1 RM. I did talk about the training age, and I discussed about the repetition. Okay, I just talked about the range, 1 to 6 to 8, or 8 to 12, more than 12, strength, endurance, and then endurance. And also the sets, like you can as low as 1 to the maximum of 6 sets. And for the better results, we stick between the 2 to 4 sets for the maximum, for the regular one. And we have something called loading techniques. Loading techniques in the sense, how to manipulate the intensity within the given range. For example, the traditional, the common parameter we use is like 12 reps or 3 sets for easy understanding, let's say. So 12 reps or 3 sets of 4 sets of given exercise, maybe a squats or maybe a lunges or maybe a bench press or lat pull down. So you just imagine your favorite exercise, or even like push-ups or your pull-ups or something like that. Okay, so imagine someone is doing a bench press, which is the easier exercise, common exercise we all remember, and their prescribed parameter is 12 reps, 3 sets. The intensity has to be manipulated within the given 3 sets. Within the prescribed set, again, you are avoiding the overtraining and you are avoiding the plateau stage. What is the plateau stage? After a certain period of time, the people will not showing any progression. Of course, these loading techniques, the manipulating the loading within the given set is not advisable, or maybe people don't need for the beginner or even intermediate. People who have been doing exercise for quite a long time can make use of these loading techniques, the manipulation of the intensity within the given range, to have a better adaptation and then to break the plateau stage. Let's see one after one. First is the ascending pyramid. Ascending pyramid, imagine a pyramid, just a triangle. So as you imagine, like you can 12 reps and then 3 sets. So imagine the prescribed weight is 50 kg for the bench press. So you are starting a first rep with the 40 kg, second rep with 50 kg, ending the set with the 40 kg. So which means starting with low intensity, which means the lower end of the prescribed intensity, and of course the higher intensity than the first repetition or first set. And again, you're ending with the lesser intensity than the second set. So imagine it's just like a triangle. Okay. So like moderate intensity, high intensity, and then moderate intensity. Whereas in descending pyramid, you're starting with the high intensity. Second set is going to be the lower intensity. Third set will be the higher intensity. So like for 12 reps and then 3 sets. If someone is doing 12 reps of 4 sets, imagine a double pyramid, which means like a diamond shape. So you're starting with one intensity and you're starting, second set you're doing a higher intensity. Third set you're going lowering the intensity. Fourth set again you're lowering, lowering your intensity further. And you're finishing up the fourth set will be the started set. Like, whatever the weight you have started with the exercise for a given variation. I hope you understand. So how to manipulate the intensity within the given set in a single session itself, not between the session. Don't confuse this with the days. I am doing a strength training for my chest on the Monday for any given day. So on the same day, I'm manipulating the intensity in such a way, like as I have said before, like in an ascending manner or descending manner, or in case of like zigzag manner, as I have explained now in the double pyramid. And whereas single set, multiple set, or superset, so here there is no proper definition for this. People use interchangeably. Like for example, if you like say like single set, for example, a bench press, I am taking a single variation for a bench press exercise. I'm just doing n number of till I just go till the failure of doing exercise. So that can be done. Whereas multiple set, usually people take the rest interval. I take some rest between the set. For example, if I say like 12 reps, 3 sets. So what traditionally people do, just take 2 to 5 minutes of rest interval between the set. Whereas in case of multiple set, they don't take any rest. Continuously, they'll be doing repetitions with the different variations. Maybe a flat, maybe a decline, or maybe incline, or maybe a pec fly, or pullover, whatever. So whatever the variation they just pick, they just do back to back without any given rest. Same thing in case of superset. So what is the use of this single set or multiple set or superset is useful to break the plateau stage. Whereas ascending, descending, or double pyramid can be used in your traditional training. Even as you're starting a given exercise, that can be done. Whereas in case of people who have been doing exercise, who wanted to have a better adaptation, wanted to break the plateau stage, whereas the variations like single set, multiple set, superset is beneficial. And of course, this type of loading manipulations or loading techniques is not advisable for beginner or intermediate. And finally, what you can see is this circuit. And circuit is useful tool when you are training a people who are recovering from injury, especially for the women population, and people who are obese individual, or again, irrespective of their age or gender or their level of weight, people who are starting the strength training, circuit training is a better way to go. So this is how you manipulate the load. And these are the things I have discussed now. And one more thing you have to consider is the eccentric loading. So whatever the exercise we traditionally do, we are focusing only on the concentric training. Usually we miss out the eccentric training. And your exercise program should have a eccentric load, and even for the old age people. And you must have heard, or like maybe in clinical practice, you must have seen the people who have sprained their ankle, even fractured their malleolus just by tripping on the floor or maybe on the stairs. And it happens especially because of poor eccentric strength of their ankle musculatures. So make sure your traditional exercises, what are the major muscles you are working, should be incorporated the eccentric training as well. The primary reason for incorporating the eccentric training is to prevention of injuries. And these are the benefits which I have said now. And the next parameter is the tempo. Tempo means the speed of given exercise. So speed in the sense how fast you are doing a given exercise. For example, again, you just take squats. And you know how to do the squat. Traditionally, we do the squats in a normal manner. But if I say like incorporate the tempo into the given exercise, how to manipulate the tempo, and you should know how much is slow speed, how much is moderate speed, how much is high speed. Again, the tempo means the speed of doing exercise, which is low tempo, which is moderate tempo, which is high tempo. If you're doing a given exercise, maybe it can be a push or pull, whatever the mode or whatever the exercise you do, it can be a body weight exercise, it can be a dumbbell, it can be a machine, or it can be whatever the implements, whatever the variation you do, tempo is applicable. So which means any given exercise during the tension phase, whether you will be pushing or pulling, right? During the tension phase, if the speed of the exercise is less than 1 second, becomes the high tempo, and 1 to 3 seconds will be the moderate tempo. And any exercise given more than, if you are pushing something more than 3 seconds, becomes the slow tempo. And when it will be useful, again, when it comes to the type of muscle fiber you are planning to recruit. So you have to map this. Map in the sense you have to map the intensity, map the repetition, map the tempo now. Okay. So if you want to train the type 1 fiber, intensity has to be lower. How much is lower? Less than 40% of their 1 hour. How much the repetition? Repetition should be more than 12. What is the tempo? Tempo should be slow, which means it should be more than 3. If you want to increase the strength endurance, what is the intensity? 40 to 70 or 60% of 1 hour. What is the muscle fiber you are firing or activating? Type 2A fiber. And what is the repetition? 8 to 12. And what is the tempo? 1 to 3. And again, going back to the type of muscle fiber again. So type 2B fiber, which is hardcore strength fiber. What is the intensity? More than 70 or 80% of 1 hour. What is the repetition? Less than 6 to 8. And what is the tempo? Less than 1. And this is how you fix the exercise parameters according to your desired goal. Okay. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. Type 1, type 2A, and then type 2 fiber, so that you can manipulate the speed of the given exercise. And finally is the rest period. So rest period in the sense, as I have told you, people used to take the break between the given set of exercise. Like if I say like 12 reps, 4 sets, we have 3 rest sessions or rest intervals we have between it. If we are doing 12 reps or 3 sets, people are having 2 rest intervals. Again, how much rest is allowed for a given exercise? So, of course, as the intensity goes higher, you have to take the longer rest interval. As the intensity goes lower, lesser rest interval. Again, the question is, how much is longer, how much is lesser? So, as the intensity goes higher, people are allowed to take the rest interval between 2 to 5 minutes to the max. So, maximum of 5 minutes of rest interval is allowed ideally, and that is the longer rest interval. When you are going to give the longer rest interval, if someone is doing a high intensity training, if someone is doing more than 70% of their 1 hour, more than 80% of 1 hour, in that case, they are allowed to take minimum of 3 to 5 minutes of rest interval between their each set. And tell you the reason after that. And if someone is doing a lesser intensity exercise, someone is doing less than 40 or 50% of 1 hour, so they don't need to take the rest interval like as we have, as I have said before, like not for 3 minutes or 4 minutes or 5 minutes. Even they are allowed to take just 60 seconds or maybe like 1 hour, 1 to 2 minutes is more than enough. And the reason behind it is, as we all know, the strength training uses the glycogen as a byproduct. You know what is glycogen? Glycogen is nothing but a stored form of glucose, where it will be stored in your body, either in the liver or in the skeletal muscle. So when you are doing a high intensity training, the energy comes from the muscle glycogen, not from the blood glucose. So the longer rest interval serves the purpose. What purpose? It allows the glycogen to be replenished into your skeletal muscle, so that you will be doing a next set in a good way, or with the proper technique or with the good effort, and you are going to get the good adaptations. What happens if you mismanipulate the rest interval alone? Imagine you have prescribed the intensity in a proper manner, you calculated 1 hour, you fix the intensity appropriately, you fix the intensity, you derived the repetition appropriately, and you have derived the set appropriately, and even the tempo, and you allow the people to take the rest interval more than they required. For example, I'm doing 12 reps of 4 sets of given exercise, and of course I'm doing high intensity, but I'm taking 10 to 15 minutes of rest interval between the exercise. So what is the use? Again, the body will consider that as a aerobic training, so that you don't get the adaptation for the anaerobic training or strength training, what you are intended to do or what you are wanted to achieve, just because of mismanipulating the intensity. What happens if I take lesser or a shorter duration than the prescribed one? Your body start to release the stress hormones, because you are not allowing a body to recover for a adequate duration, so that your body start to release the stress hormones than the required one. Like maybe will start to release the corticosteroids, glucocorticoids, or cortisols. These are the stress hormones. And what happens in case of increased stress hormone? Again, this in turn will increase the muscle soreness, poor adaptation, reduced performance. So each and every parameter in your given exercise is important. So mismanipulating any one of the parameter will end up in the poor adaptation, or maybe the poor performance, or increase in the injury rate, or just like that, people not getting their results as they are anticipating. Okay. And this is what is for the strength training. So as we all know, these are the common parameters: how much weight and how much rep, how many set, or maybe what is the tempo or speed of given exercise, and of course the rest interval finally, which I have said. And here is the plyometrics. And plyometrics, of course, you know what is the plyometrics? It's the calisthenic activity. There is a eccentric contraction, there is the amortization phase, and then the concentric action. Okay, it's the explosive exercise. Of course, it's not meant for the beginner, and we all know that. But the thing is, you should know how to club the plyometric training along with the endurance and then aerobic training, because this is the common mistake people used to do, because they'll be stressing more. Already they have been doing strength training, and then adding the plyometric training into the strength training inappropriately may have the negative impact on their outcome. Here, how to fix the intensity? What is the intensity in case of plyometric training? Which simply refers to the amount of stress placed on the individual muscles. Okay, and frequency is, and here I just placed with the in-season, off-season, predominantly for your sporting population, but because people who are highly active only used to do the plyometrics, maybe like people who have been doing exercise, definitely not for the sedentary people or for the moderately active people. So ideally, it should be prescribed 2 to 3 weeks. If someone is highly active, they are allowed to take only one session a week of the plyometric training. And the recovery time in the sense, approximately the rest interval, which we have been talking. So between the set, you have to have at least 2 to 3 minutes. Even between the reps, you need the recovery time, like 5 to 10 seconds between the each repetitions too. And between the sessions, you need to have 48 to 72 hours, which means minimum of 2 to 3 days of recovery time. So obviously, plyometric training has to be done just 2 to 3 days a week, which means you will be having at least 2 to 3 days of recovery time between the each session of plyometric training. And here is the volume of exercises, or like plyometric in the sense, like jumping over the box, and then depth jumps, squat jumps, split jumps. Okay, people jump over the box and then shuffle over the box for the lower body. For upper body, they just throw the balls on the trampoline, or maybe like slamming the medicine ball on the floor. So these are the upper body plyometrics we have. Whereas predominantly we focus on the, or like people used to do the lower body plyometrics. So when you say like volume of the plyometric exercise, so 80 to 100 is the number of times. Number of times here, individual is making a contact on the floor, which means someone is jumping over the box. How many times they are just jumping over the box? 80 to 100 times is applicable for the beginner. Again, this beginner, intermediate, advanced, you should map it with the training age, which I have said previously. 0 to 1 year, 1 to 2 year, and then more than 2 years of given exercise. So plyometric is allowed even for the beginner, but with the lesser volume, which I have prescribed here in the table. And the program length. What is the program length? Whereas people have been doing strength training, aerobic training, even flexibility training continuously for years, there is no problem in that. But when you are doing, prescribing someone to do a plyometric training, make sure it should have a cycles of training. It should not be done continuously. Again, the primary reason is you'll be stressing your joints, muscles, ligaments, meniscus more than the regular strength training. So you need to have a recovery time. That is the primary reason, nothing beyond that. So program length shall be 6 to 8 weeks. What happens after 6 to 8 weeks? You need to have your adequate recovery time, which means you just leave another 6 to 10 weeks without plyometric training, but still they are allowed to do the other regular strength training or aerobic or swimming or cycling, whatever exercise. But you shouldn't be doing the plyometric training continuously for more than 6 to 10 weeks of time. You need to have your break. And we have some age considerations as well, especially for adolescents and even for the old age people. Okay. And plyometric training is a useful tool to increase the both aerobic and then anaerobic capacity of the adolescents, because traditionally, because still remains uncertain, but still very high intensity, usually not advisable for the younger age people, like, maybe early teens, before they're skeletally mature, very high intensity, but still regular strength training with 8 to 12 reps, moderate intensity is still advisable for the, even for the adolescent people or even for the younger individuals. That is nothing wrong in that, but there is a bigger myth in our society, like teenage people or younger age people should not hit the gym or do the strength training exercise, but still they have to do, they should be doing it. Nothing wrong in it. Okay, it won't stop the growth spurt and then they just make it shorter or something like that, unless until they end up in very high intensity as the adult does, like more than 80 or 90% of their 1 hour. Okay, And adolescent people still, they don't enjoy the traditional way of exercises as a regular adult grown-ups does. In that case, plyometric will be the better option to increase the strength and then power, or maybe the overall motor skills. And for the masters, in the sense, the older age people, more than 55 or 60 years of age, and recovery time should be a little bit longer. Maybe for the regular adult, we have been saying like 2 to 3 days, or maybe for master or the older adult, you can take it like a longer recovery time. Obviously, they need longer recovery time than the regular individual. And the intensity has to be slightly lower. And of course, the volume has to be slightly lower than the prescribed one, which we have been discussing about. And here is the table how to club the resistance training with the plyometric training. Okay, so you shouldn't be doing a high intensity plyometric and then high intensity strength training on the same day, even for the contrasting regions of your body. Okay, because it will be more taxing on the individual, and of course the primary reason is to stop the injuries from happening. Okay, and for example, if you see the table here is a sample one. So if you're doing on Monday high intensity upper body, you can do the low intensity lower body, which means intensity should be opposite, and also region of the body what you're training should be opposite. In that case, you will be having a benefit of both plyometric and then resistance training. And the primary reason for not clubbing it all together is just to avoid the injuries and then the overtraining. And coming to the aerobic exercise, if you are clubbing the aerobic exercise like cycling or swimming or maybe jogging or running, okay, regular aerobic activity, you should be doing the endurance training, I mean the plyometric training before endurance training. The only reason is it have the negative impact on the endurance training. That is the primary reason, nothing beyond it. And here is the final part. What are the exercises you do, especially when it comes to strength training, or what are the natural way of movement, what are the exercises? You can take n number of exercises. All the exercises under the sky follows only these 7 primal patterns which are going to show. People will be bending or lunge or push or pull or twist or gate. Okay, so these are the common patterns, and you have to make sure when you are prescribing the exercise on the individual, and especially for healthy aging, you have to make sure all these primal pattern movements, all the 7 pattern of movements are incorporated into your exercise program. Because the healthy aging, in the sense, it's not about how much weight people are lifting. You don't need to, it's not a competition to compare with your peer group or maybe the same level of age or a level of gender in such a way like he or she is able to push 50 kg, he or she is able to do 150 kg squats. I am not doing, so that I am having lesser strength or like poor strength than the average. No, it's not like that. Healthy aging is all about how effectively you are doing a daily activities. Okay, and maybe imagine if your age is around 40 or 50 as of now, maybe 25, even 25, whatever. If you maybe a new graduates will be listening, maybe older age people. If your goal is to just to play with your grandchildren or just to do your activity on your own, being independent on your activity, you can do the moderate level of exercise. Okay, moderate intensity, moderate repetition, a regular given exercise. But the thumb rule is make sure all the patterns, movement patterns are incorporated in the exercise program. If you fail to do, for example, if your strength training is not concentrating on the twisting movement, though you have been doing exercise for longer duration, for 10 years, 15 years, you have been doing exercise, but your exercise focusing on just one pattern, 1 or 2 patterns of movement. For example, if you have never ever done the twisting movements in your life, but you are doing squats, you are doing lunges, you are doing biceps, chest, which is uniplanar movement. But maybe in real life situation, just by twisting your body and then suddenly twisting or maybe slipping off, you might injure your body. You might maybe having a minor fracture or maybe a muscle strain. But people might think I have been doing exercise, but still I end up in the injuries. The primary reason is people failed to incorporate the movement pattern as a part of training exercise. Okay, the thumb rule is it's not about the how much weight and how much intensity you are doing. It's all about how you are doing exercise and what are you incorporating the foundational movement patterns into your exercise program, so that you will be having a good quality of life as your age progresses. And that's all about from my side for today's session. Thank you all once again for your patience and then having your time and attending the session. I am opening the session for the questions.
Thank you for that wonderful session, sir.
Thank you,
So
ma'am.
here we have got a few questions.
Yeah.
So Dr. Parvati ma'am has asked, what is the right age to start weight training?
There is no prescribed right age to start the weight training, irrespective of the age. Irrespective of the age, even your children is about 15 years or 12 years, still they can do strength training. And if your age is about 40 or 50, you are allowed to do. Even if you are expecting your parents to do exercise, or maybe your grandparents to do exercise, irrespective of their age, any age is the right age to do exercise. But not starting, not doing exercise is much worse than not doing exercise. Of course, not doing exercise anyway. There is no prescribed right age to do the exercise. There is a right timing. Right timing in the sense, of course, morning exercise is better than people are doing evening, but still, some people practically doesn't have your time to do the exercise in the morning as they are busy to start their work, but still they are allowed to do the exercise in the late evening as well. But doing exercise is much better than the not doing. But there is no prescribed age factor for the given exercise. Especially for strength training, it has to be emphasized on postmenopausal women or people who are at the middle age. The reason why I'm saying is people we start to grow old as soon as we turn 25. So people consider like old age people means they might like 50 or 60 or something like that. It's not, physiologically people start to de-age, maybe not de-age, maybe start to grow old as soon as they turn 25, which means there is a potential thing to lose your muscle mass, lose your bone mass. But it's a critical point is as soon as you turn 30 or 35, more than 40, 40 plus late 30s, it's a high time to start the weight training, especially weight training. Even on the woman, especially woman or maybe a man, people start to learn, especially in the men category, we start to lose the testosterone as we grow old, so that people start to lose the muscle. And if you see the pattern, like you can see like as the men turn more than 35 or 40, you can see a pattern. Their butt goes flat and then their abdomen goes bigger. So that is the classic sign of losing a testosterone actually, which means they are losing a muscles, anti-gravity muscles, because their tones, they are losing the strength of the abdomen, they are losing a gluteus maximus. Okay, it's not about the age, it's about the losing a testosterone as we grow older, which is a natural process. Just by doing a squats or lunges or any kind of weight training, you are going to sustain their testosterone levels so that you retain their muscle mass in their body. This is for the men. And again, coming to the woman, but still there is again myth in the woman population. Doing a strength training, they might end up in bulking their muscle like as their male counterpart. Women are never going to bulk up as the men does, how much ever the intensity they are going to do, because they don't have the testosterone as high as the men. So you don't need to worry about that. Again, women should be doing exercise, weight training. Of course, what are the reason which I have said? As soon as we start to grow old, more than a 30 or 35, both genders start to lose the muscle, and is the primary organ which utilizes the insulin. Of course, pre-diabetic or diabetes can be easily managed just by doing a strength training. It's one of the primary intervention, even I would say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Our
ma'am.
next question, does the RM calculation remain same for children?
No, we shouldn't be doing 1 RM for adolescents. That's what I said. Even when I talk about the exercise program design for the adolescent, when you're talking about the plyometrics. So strength training is allowed for pre-adults, maybe the adolescents or people who are in the pre-pubertic stage, either for both girls or boys. They are allowed to do the strength training, but we shouldn't be doing a 1 RM testing, because 1 RM is a very high intensity, and you shouldn't be doing it, because definitely doing a 1 RM testing on the children is going to damage the growth plates for sure. Okay, it's contraindicated. And even I have told, even for the grown-ups or the adults, 1 RM testing is advised only for the people who have been doing exercise for 1 year. That's what talking about the training age. It should be more than a year. they should be doing training, even for the adult, because you are going to push the high, like stack up the weight, which is very high. They may not be able to tolerate. And what is the alternative is you can go for, if at all, if you are going to check the repetition maximum for the woman population or sedentary individual or obese individual, you can pick up a 10 RM. It doesn't mean that you have to test the 1 RM. You can go for 6 RM, you can go for 10 RM. That can be done. Of course, even for children, there is no point in doing it because they don't enjoy the traditional way of exercise what adults have been doing. Okay, that's what we just pick up the exercises which is playful, like maybe like at a sporting activities, maybe a functional training, a plyometrics, okay, maybe a CrossFit training, a circuit training, which is more beneficial and which is more indicated for the children's. Never ever do the 1 RM for the children's.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
In the same line, can you give examples of RM for different age groups?
There is no prescribed RM for age group, so that you have to decide. That's what I have been insisting, right? Which I have said. I think even the previous question also I have incorporated this answer. For a sedentary individual, you don't need to take the 1 RM. You don't need to calculate the 1 RM. Okay, you can straight away let them do the exercise. First, let them do the exercise, and then progressively you can calculate the 6 RM or 10 RM, which is more beneficial. Maybe you can say like for older age people, you can take 6 RM or 10 RM, or maybe for like younger age or like highly active people who have been doing exercise, you can take 1 RM. So that's why you can manipulate. But as such, there is no prescribed RM range for the people. For example, if someone is age 35, they are sedentary. They may not be end up in testing the 1 RM. Maybe 6 RM, 10 RM is beneficial for them. Whereas we have the same scenario, like if someone is aged above 55 or 60, who have been highly active, who have been doing exercise, still they can undergo 1 RM testing. So it depends on their level of fitness, level of training they have been doing. It's not just about the age.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next question, are there any resources or tools recommended for older adults to stay motivated or engaged in their exercise routine?
As such, there is no tool. The only tool works well is the fear. Fear in the sense, people should be afraid of ending up in bed by having a high level of sugar, ending up in ketoacidosis, or ending up in stroke or myocardial infarction. And that might be the very good, it's not a motivating factor, it's a real fear factor, which means you can educate them about the consequences of not doing exercise. Of course, motivation practically won't work all the time, because if someone is doing exercise, they're just doing. It's not someone is motivating them. Okay, but still, being a professional, we should open the avenues by creating the awareness, by creating the sessions like this, of course, even to the professionals, even to the public domain, so that they have to motivate themselves. There is no third factor is going to motivate someone, but the primary thing is about the awareness. Just by doing a consistent, minimal amount of exercise is going to postpone or like prevent many lifestyle disorders, as we all know very well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
And any take-home message and practice based on today's topic, sir?
Take-home message, if the listeners, if any of the listeners are not doing exercise, start doing exercise. And of course, there is exercise psychology as well. It's very easy to say to do exercise, and whereas practically speaking, it's all about your attitude toward the exercise. And we have a lot of reasons to say for not doing exercise. Of course, even I am one of that. What I do is I just prefix my exercise regimen with my regular activity. For example, I made it myself. Like I'm just insisting myself, I should be doing my body weight. I'll be doing push-ups or squats or like burpees or something like that before I brush my teeth. Okay, so which means it is easy to do, because I just got this idea, because I have been doing exercise not consistently, obviously. Though I just talk about the exercise, I just have to be clear that I'm not a regular guy who have been doing exercise for years. I do exercise, And here and there, I used to take a break because I don't feel like doing exercise. I'm not consistent with the exercise. After reading a book called Atomic Habits, it's a very familiar book. So what is the saying is you should fix the activity which you want to do, map it or like club it with the activity which you have been consistently doing. So what I did is I just made myself, before I brush my teeth, I should be doing at least 20 or 30 or 15 push-ups or squats or any type of exercise before I brush my teeth. So it works really well. Maybe this might be the take-home message. People who are start to do exercise. Okay, definitely, if you are starting to do exercise, most of the time will end up in the failure. So what I'm trying to say is, pick any one exercise. It can be even a breathing exercise. It can be a wall push-ups. It can be a squats. Even if you are doing 5 repetitions or 10 repetitions, more than enough. The key here is the consistency. Not about, that's what I'm insisting, it's not about the weight. It's not about the intensity. What is like taking up a gym membership and then going there. It's not about, if you're doing it really well, you can do start with the very basic, just your wall push-ups or even your regular modified push-ups or maybe a squats or maybe a lunges. I try to map it with the thing which is useful for me. Maybe you have to pick what are the activity you are mapping it with. Only thing is you just have to start and you have to fix with the consistency. And once you start to see even a small result, and that becomes the motivation to continue it. That's it, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir, for that valuable tip.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again, IAP Women's Cell, for having a wonderful session. Thank you all the people who are behind this initiative. Thank you even all the participants through the Zoom and even the YouTube live stream. All the participants, I hope it will be useful for you guys. Thank you all once again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Should I end the session?
Yeah, we have few more minutes, sir, to end.
Yeah, please.
As we conclude today's session, it's my honor to extend a sincere vote of thanks. First and foremost, our heartfelt gratitude goes to our esteemed resource person, Professor Dr. J. Muthukumaran, sir, for sharing valuable insights and expertise. Your contribution has been invaluable and made this session truly enriching, sir. Thank you once again.
Thank
A
you.
very special thanks to our mentors, Dr. Sanjeev K. Jha, sir, IAP President, Dr. Ruchi Varshini ma'am, National Head, IAPWC, Dr. MC Mercy Jayaprabha ma'am, South Zonal Head, IAPWC. I also sincerely appreciate the efforts of the organizing team, IAPWC Tamil Nadu, Dr. S. Parvati ma'am, State Head, Dr. K. Pratibha ma'am, Joint Coordinator, and our sub-coordinators, Dr. Jayashree ma'am, Dr. R. Bharati ma'am, Dr. S. Chandralekha ma'am. Last but not the least, thank you to all the participants for your valuable presence and engagement. We hope today's learnings will inspire continued reflection and action. We look forward to welcoming you in our future sessions. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Over to Dr. Neha, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for taking the time for attending this webinar. All the participants through Zoom, through YouTube live streaming. We appreciate your joining with us, and we hope that the participation was very much valuable about regarding exercising and the repetitions and the schedule, how you can fit into your own lifestyle. And we would also like to mention that if have any thoughts regarding the webinar, you please be very much free enough to contact the organizers so that your valuable inputs are going to help us improve the future events. And also for tomorrow that we have the day 4 of webinar with the topic Exercise as Medicine for Aging Population by Dr. K.C. Gayatri ma'am. So I also insist all the participation to be staying tuned for tomorrow's webinar from 1 p.m. onwards on the same Zoom link. And we also would be sharing the YouTube streaming live link when the session gets open. Thank you so much, sir, for having all the good insights for today's webinar that you explained, and also inclusive of the Atomic Habit book that you have been reading, and from that you could give us the valuable inputs and how we can engage ourselves into doing exercises. Thank you, the organizing team. And yes, for today that we come to an end for this webinar. We hope to see you all tomorrow again for the day 4 webinar series on occasion of World Physiotherapy Day celebrations 2025. Thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am. See you all.
Thank you, sir.